The full Play It Today breakdown is linked in the description on theircheck.com. For Donkey Kong Jr., the good news is that the legal answer is unusually clean. The more important question is whether you want a short arcade score game, or whether you are actually looking for a fuller Donkey Kong platformer. That distinction matters immediately. Donkey Kong Jr. is still worth playing if you want the arcade game, not the memory of the NES version, not a collector detour. The actual 1982 arcade challenge, built around climbing, timing, enemy avoidance, and repeating short stages until you get sharper, that still works, in the right mood. It is compact, it is readable, it gives you the old arcade bargain, very clearly. Learn the stage, improve the attempt, chase the score, make fewer mistakes, but it is not a generous modern platformer. If you are coming from later Donkey Kong games, or even from broader Nintendo platforming, this may feel narrow. There is no long adventure structure here, no gentle progression arc, no big world to explore. It is a concentrated arcade game, and it expects you to enjoy repetition. So the recommendation is positive, but with a real caveat. Play Donkey Kong Jr. if you want a direct early Nintendo arcade platformer. Skip it, or at least do not start here. If what you want is a more developed Donkey Kong platforming experience. For that kind of player, Donkey Kong for Game Boy is the better alternate entry point. It is not the same game, and it should not be treated as a replacement for Donkey Kong Jr., but it gives modern players more structure, more progression, and a fuller puzzle platforming shape. Now, how do you play Donkey Kong Jr. legally today? For most people, the answer is Arcade Archive's Donkey Kong Jr. on Nintendo Switch. That is the clean recommendation. It is the current official route to the arcade version, and it avoids the usual retro problem where the most authentic version and the most convenient version are two different things. Here they mostly line up. Older NES Virtual Console releases exist as legacy context, especially on Wii U and Nintendo 3DO cassettes, but those stores are no longer normal new purchase options. If you already own one of those versions, fine, but if you are starting fresh, the NES route is not the recommendation. Original arcade hardware is the purest physical route, but only for enthusiasts with legitimate access. It is not practical advice for a normal player. So the version to start with is simple. Arcade Archives on Switch. Why that version? Because it gives you the arcade game without making you build your life around old hardware. It preserves the important part of the recommendation, which is that Donkey Kong Jr. makes the most sense as a short arcade platformer, not as a compromised home console memory. The NES version matters historically, and plenty of players know the game through that lens. But if the goal is to play Donkey Kong Jr. today, with the least confusion, the arcade release is the clearer choice. You get the original format, the arcade structure, and modern digital access in one place. That is the rare case where the low friction answer and the purest answer are basically the same answer. Before starting, adjust your hands and your expectations. Donkey Kong Jr. is about climbing before it is about jumping. The vines matter. Enemy movement matters. Timing matters. You are not sprinting through a side-scrolling platformer. You are reading a single-screen obstacle space and trying to move cleanly through it. The common mistake is to treat it like a later Nintendo platform game. Do that and it can feel stiff or harsh. The smarter approach is slower and more deliberate. Learn how Junior moves. Watch how enemies travel. Understand when climbing is safe, when a jump is worth the risk, and when the game is baiting you into rushing. You do not need a walkthrough to start. You need the right frame. This is a high-score arcade game built from short attempts, not a campaign you settle into for hours. Failure is not an interruption. It is how the game teaches the screen. That is also where its modern value lives. Donkey Kong Jr. is not broad, but it is focused. It is a clean way to experience an early Nintendo arcade platformer without much legal friction, for short sessions, for score chasing, for understanding that early design language, it still earns its place. The final call, recommended, with caveats. Buy Arcade Archives, Donkey Kong Jr. if you specifically want the arcade game. Choose Donkey Kong for Game Boy first if you want a fuller Donkey Kong platformer. The difference is the whole decision.